Podcast listener questions and Hawaii vacation packages reviewed next on the Hawaii Vacation Connection. Which is always my mantra, right? I'm always talking about advanced bookings because I think that's the best way to save them. That's what I call aloha spirit. It's a world championship. It's 32 miles to cross the channel from Molokai to this part of Oahu on the east side. And welcome again to the show. Hope you're having a great day wherever you are. If you're watching this in sequence over the weekend, it is Aloha Friday here in the islands, and we hope you're having a great weekend and you have some great plans for Hawaii in your future. And every Friday, we like to answer podcast listener questions. So if you got a question or a comment, if you'd like me to talk about something here on the program, please drop me a line at bruce@hawaii-aloha.com or podcast@hawaii-aloha.com. You also can get in touch with me on Facebook and Twitter. You can ask your questions that way as well. Let's take a quick look outside before we do anything and take a look at our crater cam. This is looking at Diamondhead from the southeast side of the island. We're in Hawaii Kai, so you can see it out there. Trade winds are blowing a little bit, and it's one of those days where you really can't complain. It turned out to be a gorgeous day, and hopefully that's going to hold out through the weekend. They've been talking, I mean, if you look at the satellite loop, you can see that there's a lot of clouds, like high clouds over the islands, but they don't seem to be doing anything. I think Kauai was the only island that really had any kind of problem, and I'm not even sure they had any rain. But that's what you can expect if you're going to be here for the next couple of days. Well, we got a lot of ground to cover today. We've had a lot of questions come in the past couple of weeks, and the last couple of Fridays I actually haven't been able to get to all of the questions. So I've put them all together here, and I've got them, so let's get right to it. First question here from Eric. And he said, so alcohol is not allowed on the beaches, right? So a hotel won't send the beach boy down for a Mai Tai. And basically what he's saying is, and a lot of people have this idea that, you know, Hawaii vacation, I'm going to be sitting on the beach, sipping Mai Tais, you know, and there's going to be all this alcohol. Wrong. Fail. It doesn't work that way. In Hawaii, they have these pretty strict liquor laws. So there's no place that you can just be sitting on the beach legally and sipping and drinking. And so hopefully that clears that up for you, Eric. We got another question here, and that's from Mitch. And he said, are there any really good historical tours that you can recommend on Oahu? And I looked into this a little bit. I checked with Kalani, who knows activities here really well, and there is a walking tour that you can do downtown, and it's done by Ohana Tours. It's $20. It covers Kauai Hau Church, the mission houses, the mayor's office, and Iolani Palace, and the post office, and several other locations there, and it's only $20, which is a good price. But there's no way that you can get the real true history of Hawaii in a 20 or 30-minute tour. Keep in mind that the tours we have here of the various historical locations give you somewhat of a history lesson. So, for example, if you go to Iolani Palace, you're going to get a lot of the history of the Hawaiian people, what has happened here, especially the overthrow there. You're going to get information there about that. And if you go to the mission houses, for instance, you're going to find out, you know, the mission houses perspective of it, and there's some friction. There's some people that are happy that the missionaries came, and there's others that are not. So there's no way to do that, but by nature or by default, when you do any of these sites, you're going to get a history lesson. So the answer is yes, and there used to be more of these tours, and I understand there's a walking tour that a company puts out on CD that I'll get to you guys that you can do. That it's a historic walking tour down in the historic section of downtown Honolulu. So that's an option for you too. The next question comes in here from Sandy Mosley. She's one of our Facebook friends. And she says, can you tell me some of the vantage points on Oahu where you can see an unobstructed view of Diamondhead? The reason that I'm asking is because I happened to see a full view of it from the airport, and I thought it was just a magnificent view. And it's really cool just to open up your window and be able to look out and see that? Well, right off the top of my head, of course, the Park Shore Waikiki, which is one of the properties we have, is located right on the corner of Kalakaua and Kapahulu. And that particular corner gives you an... That sounded like I'm from Boston, didn't I? For just 1 second there. That one little corner has an unobstructed view of Diamondhead. And it's a beautiful view. It's one of my favorite views. Now, that's just a hotel. Now, she's talking, another place that you can get a nice view of it is from Magic Island, which is at Ala Moana Park. I can think of that point there, where you can just be looking up the beach and seeing it. Those are two that I can think of off the top of my head. It is really nice to be able to look up there and see that fantastic view, that amazing view. Of course, you can climb up Diamondhead, but those are the two that I can think of off the top of my head. Another question in here comes from Tina Cardenas, and I wasn't sure because she's from Hawaii, so I wasn't sure if this was a trick question just to test us, or if it really was a true question. But the question is, what's the real story behind Chinaman's hat? Okay, the real story behind Chinaman's hat. Now, I'm not sure what you mean by the real story. I can tell you what stories I'm aware of and what I have found out about Chinaman's hat. Now, Chinaman's hat, there's a picture of it there. Well, I can tell you that Chinaman's hat, Mokuli'i Island, is very sacred to the Hawaiian people because it is believed that this is where the true life begins for Hawaiians here in the islands, because that is where they planted all of their seedlings and started to grow everything, because that part of the island was the most fertile. It got the most rain. So that area is very important to the Hawaiian people, and that's one of the real stories behind it. Now, that's important because if it wasn't for that area, if it wasn't for the richness of the soil there and the ability to grow crops, they planted the first poi there. They harvested a lot of the fish in the fish ponds there. The fish ponds went up and down the coast. This was just sacred, and that's where the Tahitians came and first started planting crops. So there would be no Hawaiian people if it wasn't for Mokuli'i Island. So that's one of the real stories. Another story is, I was wondering, where did they get the name Chinaman's hat? Who, looked up in the sky and said, that's Chinaman's hat? Of course, it actually looks like a Chinaman's hat in that the settlers who came here earlier, the immigrants, when they worked in the plantation fields, those are the hats, that's the way the hats looked like in those days. Now, I don't know, and I haven't been able to find out if there was a particular person that started that, but it's believed that the name came from there and came from the plantation workers who worked in the sugarcane fields and worked in that part of the island during those days. That's one of the main things. Now, the other real story is legend. There's a lot of legend attached with it, but basically those are the three things I have been able to find out about it, and it's a good question. And whether or not it's offensive, Yaling never commented that she thought it was offensive to her. She's Chinese, and I've never heard any Chinese folks really getting tremendously offended by it, because it depends, I guess, in what context you're presenting Chinaman's hat. That's about all I can tell you about that. So hopefully that helps you out, and we've answered that sufficiently. I hope we did a good job with that one. Got another question here, and this is an interesting question, okay? This comes in from Jason Yotsuda. He's another Facebook friend, and he said, what is the longest distance from end to end if you're going to draw a straight line through the middle of the island of Kauai? Don't ask me why. I don't know why he's asking this question, but it's an interesting question. It's a math question, basically. And basically, if you look at the furthest 2 points on the island from end to end, it's about 35 miles, if that's what you mean by that. About 35 miles between end to end. And it would take you about an hour and a half, depending on traffic, to get from one side to the other. So hopefully that answers your question. And thank you for that. Of course, if you have a question, make sure you send it to us for Friday's show. We do the questions every Friday, and you can just email it to me, Bruce, at hawaii-aloha.com, or at podcast@hawaii-aloha.com. Another question here is from Casey, and he says he's sending his son and daughter to Oahu to renew their vows. And what do you think of the Equus Hotel, and do you have any recommendations for Hawaiian simple beach wedding for less than $300? He says he found a minister and a photographer that gives them an album of 60 photos and a keychain with 10 photographs for $275. Well, you know, this is not my kuleana. I'm not an expert on this, but I think for $275 you're going to kind of get what you pay for these things. But that's really the going rate. Weddings, the least expensive weddings start at around $300 in the islands. Now, as far as renewing vows, if you're staying at the Outrigger, and we've talked about that before, you can do that for free. They have a free program. But there are people you can get, and if you let me know when you're doing this, I might be able to recommend to you a local person, a local minister, that would just do the vow renewal, maybe charge you $100 or so. So I think that about does it for the questions for today. Now we're going to go over some packages that have been booked in the last 24 to 48 hours. So if you're planning a trip to Hawaii, this is an excellent segment for you. So let's get right to it here. First package is for 4 people. Traveling June 17th to the 24th. They're coming in from Las Vegas. They're going to Honolulu right here on Oahu. They're going to be staying at the Aston Waikiki Beach Hotel in an ocean view room. This includes all the leg readings and transfers. Total package price, $36.17. Wow, 4 people, $3,600. Is this for real? This is, as usual, a great deal from Hawaii Aloha Travel. Remember, only $50 gets this booking locked in for these folks, and they're already planning for the summer, so you can see how important it is. And I'm just not saying this. You know, you might think, oh, this guy's self-promoting. He's trying to sell me something. No, I'm not. I am really not. I am giving you the honest, straight scoop here. If you don't book it through us, book it with somebody, but book it soon for June. We just got some numbers. Remember on the last show, I told everybody that I was wrong, that the prices of hotel rooms were going down, because they were. And they were over last year. Well, guess what? We just got noon figures today where it's up. And we're starting to see that occupancy rate's going to be in the 80s. And, you know, folks, they may say, okay, well, there's 20% hotel rooms free. No, it doesn't work like that, because it's a lot more complicated than that for the hotel, because the hotel needs a cushion, a 20% cushion, because remember, they're overselling their hotels through companies like Expedia, Travelocity, and all the others. So just because it says we're 80% occupancy, that's a misleading number, because that is huge. We were just at 70% last week when we were giving these numbers. So we're seeing a huge spike. Anyway, I hated to get off into a tangent there, but this is the truth. So book ahead in advance, and these folks have. Congratulations to the Padilla family, Rebecca, Cara, Toby, and Edward. Thank you so much. Mahalo nui from all of us here at Hawaii Aloha Travel. Joey was the agent that put that one together, and he's over at extension 26. Next package is for 2 people, and they're traveling March 14th to 20th. So this is a more recent booking. They're going to be staying in the Aqua Maile Sky Court. This is a budget property, but in a very good location, right in the heart of Waikiki. March 14th to 20th. Total package price on that one, only $18.48. Great deal. Congratulations to these guys. They're coming in from ELP. That's near Phoenix, right? Coming in from ELP. I don't know what airport that is.
El Paso?
Oh, El Paso. El Paso, Texas. That's right. Welcome, partner. Howdy. Coming in from El Paso, coming into Honolulu. So congratulations to these guys. These are the Sermons, Dale and Tamatha. Well, that's going to wrap it up. We want to thank you very much for tuning in. Remember, we do this every Tuesday and Friday. In between then, you can catch up with us on our blog and also our podcast page, also the app, and on Twitter and Facebook. So please keep in touch with us. I love hearing from you guys. It just makes my day when I hear from you. So please get in touch with me just to say hi, just to say aloha, and let us know that you're listening or watching. So that's going to wrap it up. For my beautiful wife, Yale, for all of us here at Hawaii Aloha Travel, we'll say aloha and mahalo. We slowly